Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. You know, John Kerry is our Secretary of State. I find him to be pompous. I find him to be clumsy. And I find him to be sophomoric. I think the guy really has no idea what he's doing. Now, he is so impressed with himself. He's so inflated with a sense of his own brilliance that he doesn't see it. He doesn't get it. You know, and the spokesman that he has, this Jen Psaki, I mean, she seems like a nice person. I'm not saying anything about her character, her personality. She seems very pleasant. She seems very nice. But every time I see these people speaking on behalf of the State Department, I think I'm watching somebody from a student council in high school. They appear to me to be superficial, to be young, to be eager, to be immature, and to be shallow. They really have no idea what they're doing or what they're talking about. And as I mentioned, John Kerry said Israel's on the verge of becoming an apartheid state if it does not accept a two-state solution. Well, there's no way in the world the Palestinians are ever going to accept a two-state solution. In fact, you go to a Palestinian elementary school, and the elementary students are studying maps of the Middle East that don't even have Israel on it. I mean, Israel's not even on it anywhere. So there's no way they're going for a two-state solution. You know, their version of a solution is a one-state solution with Israel exterminated, vanished, wiped, obliterated off the map. They don't want to live at peace with Israel. They want to obliterate her. So it's Israel is every bit within its right to say, look, we're not going to take a sucker bet on this deal. We have sovereignty issues. We're going to protect those, and we're not going to be pushed around. And you know, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and so we have all kinds of reasons to stand with Israel and to support her, even though our president and our Secretary of State do not. But I'll tell you, the main reason that we should stand with Israel is very simple. We should stand with Israel because God does. We should stand with Israel because God does. You know, Rosie, that caller, earlier drew our attention to Genesis 12, where God says, if you bless the descendants of Abraham, I will bless you. If you dishonor the descendants of Abraham, I will curse you. I mean, that's, you don't want to mess with God. And if he says you curse or you dishonor Israel, I will curse you, he meant it. And you look at the nations that have dishonored Israel. You see poverty, you see backwardness, you see ignorance, you see no civilization, no culture, no education. And those nations that have been kind to Israel, on the other hand, have flourished. I mean, even if you don't think that America is a Christian nation, and maybe you don't, maybe you disagree with me, but I think it's no question, it's a no-brainer that we're a Christian nation. But even if you didn't agree with that, you would have to accept the fact that we of all the nations of the earth have been the kindest to Israel historically. This has been a place where they have been welcome, been a place of refuge. They could freely build their synagogues. They could freely carry out their religious practices and their rituals. They could worship without any kind of hindrance in our cities. George Washington, when he was president, wrote them a very gracious letter. So this has been a place that's been a haven for Jews from day one. We went to war to liberate them from Nazi bondage. And what has God done? Because we have been kind to the descendants of Abraham, God, I believe, has blessed the United States of America. And if we continue to bless Israel, God will bless us. If we dishonor Israel, which is what John Kerry did on Friday, which is what I think our president does when he leaves Benjamin Netanyahu out there cooling his heels while he goes upstairs and has dinner. You dishonor Israel, God says, I will curse you, and God is not messing around. So we should stand with Israel for one simple reason, because God does. Now, we owe Israel Christianity. I mean, Christianity grew out of Jewish soil. Our Messiah is a Jew. Our Messiah walked the earth as a Jew. That's why it's so inconsistent for a Christian to be an anti-Semite, because we believe that the Savior of the world walked the earth as a Jew. We believe that salvation is of the Jews. It came through the Jews. It came from the Jews. They preserved the oracles of God. They preserved the commandments of God. We are heirs of their faithful work to preserve the very teachings and the very words of God. So we owe them a debt of gratitude for what they have preserved for us. And as Paul said, look, they have blessed us spiritually. We owe it to them to be a blessing to them materially. All right, let's go to the phones. Talk about either of those topics, our relationship with Israel or our nature as a Christian nation. Let's begin with Bernard in Texas. Bernard, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yeah, before I accepted Christ, I was a fornicator, a liar. I cheated, I stole. And you know what it was? It's because I was a sinner. I did everything that identified with being a sinner. I was established as a sinner. So when I came to Christ, I established my life on biblical principles. I did that because I was a Christian. Now, if an individual is establishing a livelihood, a life, a system, a way, everything on Christian principles, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck.
So you're saying that we're a Christian nation?
What I'm saying is, even though we haven't specifically said Christianity is the religion of this nation, well, what does it look like? What was it founded on? What are the type of people that founded it? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and that was my point, Bernard, by using the analogy with a Muslim inauguration ceremony. I mean, if everybody hears the Muslim calls to prayer at 9 in the morning, everybody goes out in the streets, unrolls their prayer mats, and they pray Muslim prayers. Then the guy takes his oath on the Quran. He invokes the help of Allah as he starts as he leans over and kisses the Quran. Then he prays to Allah as his first act. Then they all go to a mosque where an imam gives a sermon out of the Quran. They all use, I mean, you would say without any question whatsoever, this is an Islamic nation. It is a Muslim nation. All right. Thank you, Bernard. So Bernard and I both agree. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, that's what it is. All right. Let's go to Lee in Plano, Texas. Lee, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello?
Hello. Yes, Lee, go right ahead.
Okay. I wanted to just remind everybody, surely everybody knows by now, that Barack Obama is a Muslim. Everything he does proves that. He always observes the Muslim holidays with a dinner in the White House. As you mentioned earlier, he goes to mosque when he goes to other countries. He never, instead of church, he never talks about Easter. He doesn't observe the National Day of Prayer. I consider him the terrorist in the White House, actually, because I truly believe that that's his purpose, to take America down. And everything he does is on the side of our enemies instead of our allies, and Israel is a good example of that. And I'm sure he chose John Kerry knowing that John Kerry would fit into that agenda very well and go right along with him. And John Kerry would love to, and maybe he has, bowed before Barack Obama, trying to please him in every way because they're both ultra-liberal. I don't know if he's as much so as Obama, but it's just appalling what has happened to our country.
Well, and I think, Lee, I appreciate what you're saying. And again, I don't know. I'm not going to pronounce an opinion on whether Barack Obama is a secret Muslim or not. I know a lot of people believe he is. And I've talked with people that are sort of insiders in Washington, D.C., says everybody thinks that in D.C. Hardly anybody doesn't. But one thing is very clear to me, so I'm not going to pronounce an opinion on that, but one thing is very, very clear to me is that Barack Obama has an affinity for Islam that is much deeper, more sincere, and more fervent than any affinity he might have for Christianity. He obviously has Islam is a most favored religion status in his world. I think that's obvious. When he talks about Christianity, it's perfunctory, it's routine. He never talks about the wonders of Christianity, what it's meant to America, contributions to American history, contributions to American civilization, Western civilization. But every time he talks about Islam, his face lights up. He talks about its wonders. He talks about its glories. He talks about all of its wonderful contributions to human life and human civilization. Notice he's never identified one, but he assures us that there are many. All right, let's go to Hector in Florence, South Carolina. Hector, welcome. What's on your mind?
Good day to you, Brian. I'm glad y'all got through the storm really well. And
thank you, sir.
I was hoping y'all would, you and your families and all.
Thank you.
You got one of the best call screeners there. He's a great guy.
He is.
Yeah.
He's not much of a golfer, but he's a great call screener. Anyway, go ahead. Just kidding.
Okay. Listen,
he just
make this real fast.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say a funny real quick. John Kerry should have been a game show host. But anyway, listen, our country was founded on Christianity. Our forefathers worked hard and gave up a lot and sacrificed all they could sacrifice to establish that. And what's happened is what's been built up above that little by little, a little bit at a time, you've had rotten 2x4s, people that really didn't know God. They were hypocrites. They were domestic communists or domestic terrorists, whatever you want to call them. Then you got the good 2x4s, the treated ones, the Christians. They really cared for country. And little by little, it all got built up together. And so you got more than half the house with rotten wood. I would dare to say that only truly 15 to 20% are truly born-again Christians in our nation, because look at the results in the elections and so forth. But moving right along, Barack Obama, nobody brings this point up, but real quickly I'm going to say Barack Obama is at war with God. He hates God. I believe he's infuriated with him. He's mad at him. He's disgusted with him, and he's doing everything he can. He can't touch God. He can't beat on God with his fist, but he's going to do everything he can to get at God, and he's doing it by mistreating Israel, leaving them to hang out to dry, and doing it to his people.
All right, Hector, listen, I appreciate the observation. You know, that's a thought I really hadn't thought about before. I have to ruminate on that, whether Barack Obama, Hector's suggesting Barack Obama's got a beef with God. And there may be something to that. He may have a beef with the God who is revealed in the pages of Scripture. And that may be why he has a beef with the Jewish people, why he's out to suppress Christian religious expression in the United States, and why he shows so much favoritism toward the religion of Islam. Maybe he's got a beef with the Christian God. Maybe he thinks they're responsible for all the colonialism and the racism he believes exists in this country. Focal Point AFR Talk.